Okay, ladies, can we talk about the Barefaced toning pads? They are my very favorite product of the Barefaced skincare line. I use them morning and night to brighten and tighten my skin, unclog pores, and boost the effects of the other Barefaced products I use. These skin smoothing pads are packed with acids, antioxidants, and hydrating ingredients to tackle dullness, rough texture, and breakouts. A lot of my friends also purchase these for their teenagers who deal with breakouts. You can use our code MAMA15 at checkout and you will receive 15% off your first purchase of toning pads or any of the other results driven medical grade skincare products offered at barefaced.com.
I want to be Joy Murray when I grow up. She is a mother of three, including 9-time rodeo world champion Ty Murray. She's a true cowgirl and the perfect combo of tough and sweet. In our last episode, we interviewed Ty's awesome wife, Paige, but it is his mama who helped shape him into a champion. Let's chat now about life on the ranch and what it was like to raise the king of the cowboys.
Joy, it is so nice to meet you, and what a fun experience. I can only imagine getting to watch your son succeed in such an interesting platform. And as a mom who is admittedly a worrier and kind of freaks out about anything dangerous that my kids want to do or try, I have so much respect for you.
A lot of people said that, but I think, Jennifer, I think I was so young, and Ty loved it. I mean, there was no kid in the world that wanted to rodeo and ride more than he did. There's no way you could have not let him.
No saying no to that dream, right?
Yeah, yeah, he walked it, talked it, dreamt it, ate it. Yeah, everything he did was around rodeo from
Yeah.
morning to night.
I wanted to hear a little bit about how you grew up because you grew up on the farm and in the
Yeah,
ranching lifestyle as well,
yeah,
right?
yeah. There was six of us kids, and we grew up on a farm in Colorado. My dad roped calves, and us kids all messed with horses and riding and going to the little rodeos, and we all loved it. Uh, and my brother was world's champion, Butch
Yeah.
Myers, and then his kids, Rope Myers. So there's been quite a few champions in the Myers family. And then Ty, come along, he's so much cowboy that I don't know the Myers and the Murray. His dad's a good cowboy too. So, but Ty's got two sisters too that were very very good cowgirls. But I think they were a little intimidated by Ty because Ty got he got so much recognition, so much. I mean, it was hard on them, for I think for sisters because
Yeah. Did
everything
they
was.
compete as well? Did the girls compete the
Oh
way
yeah,
that he did at a young age?
yeah. Since they were little, yeah, yeah. They roped, and they run barrels, they breakaway, they goat tied, and they were both very talented. But they
Mhm.
just, like I said, I think they were a little intimidated by Ty. My grandkids were too, actually, because here was this king, you know.
Truly, yeah.
Yeah. And Jennifer, when he was first born, he was like maybe 10 months old, maybe not even a year old. Everybody wanted his picture. Everybody wanted to say hi to him. And so I had started an album on him, and I put the caption I put on it was King of the Cowboys
As a baby?
as a baby, and that's a true story.
Wow.
Yeah, I have the album. Yeah. So I mean, where did that come from? Really?
Yeah. I don't know.
You
Maybe a mother's intuition, right? That he was going to do big
I
things.
guess because and he was, like I said, little.
Yeah.
Well, you know what? I just knew he was something different,
Hmm.
something more special, not more special than anyone else. And, I didn't love him more than anyone else. He had something in him that was very different,
Could
um,
you see that at a very young age with him?
very young, very, very
Like,
young.
what do you mean? Like, what are some of the character
Uh,
traits?
he was good at anything he did, anything. It didn't matter.
Uh-huh.
If the kids were out playing ball, he could outplay them. If they were running, he could outrun them. He has such will to do good and to win and to, I mean, I don't know where that comes from. Well, all of us is probably a little bit like that, you know. We
It
always
sounds like
like
a
to win.
rather competitive family too.
Yeah, very competitive. Yeah, yeah. You know, who knows? But I do know from the time he was tiny, tiny, tiny. In fact, when he was probably 4, he would stand in front of the mirror in our motorhome when we'd go to the junior rodeos, and he'd do this. Mom, does this look good? Mom, does this look good? Mom, how does this look? I said, it looks pretty good, Ty. But he practiced all of his moves. He
Uh-huh.
practiced sleeping with his feet turned out for riding bulls and broncs. You know, he'd try to lay and go to sleep with his feet out. So,
Oh my goodness.
yeah,
Yeah, he was destined for it
yeah,
for sure.
yeah,
And
he
so
was
was he one of those kids that no matter, the typical what do you want to be when you grew up, was it always to be the
always,
best bull rider in the
always,
world?
always. He never, ever varied. He was going
Wow.
to be a cowboy. Uh, he wanted to be the best in the world. He always said, he said, I don't care about being a great bull rider or, bronc rider, but he said, I want to be known as a great cowboy.
Wow. Well, he can
And he
check
went,
that off the bucket list, right?
yeah, exactly. Because, Ty could rope.
Uh-huh.
He, he could do anything on a horse. In the college rodeos, he worked every event. He was in the cutting, he was in the roping, he was in the bulldogging. Yeah.
Wow.
I can't even explain that, but I know there was a difference. Just in the way he walked, talked. We would have people. We'd go to a rodeo, and Ty would have won everything. Them little junior rodeos, he'd win the barrel race, and he'd win the steer riding, and he'd win. And he was just little. And the neighbors would come over and say, "Ty, how'd you do this weekend?" And he'd say, "I did okay," and off he'd go. So one day I said, "Ty, why don't you tell them how good you did?" And he said, "Mom, if you're good, they know."
Ooh, that's very insightful for a young guy
And
too.
that, yeah, yeah.
He was letting his actions speak more than the
Uh-huh.
words, right?
Yep, he didn't have to tell nobody, and he never did, and he
Yeah.
wouldn't to this day.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
would
So,
never talk about himself,
mhm.
except his funny stories rodeoing, and he's got some
Right.
good ones.
Oh, I can
But he
only
was a fun kid to raise. He was a good kid. I mean, he was ornery, but Lord, we had fun with him. He was just, he was a good kid. He just
yeah.
very focused. He was going to be a cowboy, or that was all. Well, that's all he was going to be. There was no. They wanted him to wrestle. They wanted him to play football. They wanted him to do He did gymnastics in high school,
Yeah,
and
I
they
read that, but the purpose of doing gymnastics was actually to help with his rodeo skills, right?
exactly. And they wanted him. The coach really thought he could make the Olympics. He said he's so good. If I could just work with him, and so,
Wow.
he said, no, I go to rodeos on the weekend. I can't go to gymnastics. And he wouldn't play football because of the rodeos. And he wouldn't play. They wanted him to wrestle, and they told him he didn't even have to come to practice
Wow.
because he'd just go and beat the kids. He
Yeah.
was real. He was a strong made. He was little, but he was a strong made boy. But
Uh-huh. Yeah.
yeah,
What one of the things I read was that he did chores around the age of 12 so he could buy a mechanical bull to practice
yes, he
on. Is
did.
that true? Tell
Yeah,
me about
well,
that.
but he worked for his dad. His dad started racehorses on the gate, starting gate. I don't know if you
Okay.
know what that is, but when they put the horses in the gate, and then one stands up there, and when they're all lined up and ready to go, they push a button and that
They
opens.
release it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, that releases that. Yeah, and you have a flagger that stands out in front and flags too, so they get the times right. So Butch had hired Ty, or his dad had hired Ty to be the flagger. So he paid. I can't even remember what it paid, but it wasn't a lot. But he saved every penny. He wouldn't even buy a candy bar, and he would. He wanted a bucket machine, and we weren't rich, and there's no way we could afford a bucket machine. So he ended up saving, I think, $1,000.
Wow.
maybe not even quite at that. Honestly, Jennifer, I can't remember. I'm too old. But he had earned quite a, for a little boy. So we went. I got on the phone one day and looked in the paper, and I started calling around for people that had bucking uh, machines for sale. And I would call, and it was like, no, 3,000, no, So I called one guy, and he said, well, he said, we are moving, and we can't take it with us. And he said, how much money has he got? And like I said, I'll say, for some reason, $800 sticks in my mind. And he said, we'll take it. We went and loaded it up, and he rode that thing, Jennifer, from morning till, well, he would ride it so much, the inside of his legs would bleed.
Wow.
Yeah, and he would take cardboard and put it down in the top of his boots. Yeah,
So
that's
that the boots wouldn't rub against his legs
mhm,
or
and make
wow.
his legs so sore. Yeah,
Oh my
he
goodness.
was he was like I don't. To me, he was like no other kid I'd ever seen.
Mhm.
So focused. I'd never seen someone so focused.
Did it ever worry you kind of how compulsive he was about it?
No, like I said, I was young, but people said, how did you do it? And it was like it's just my makeup. I just thought, you know what? He's in an arena. He's got picket men. They know it's serious, you know, uh, and he loves it more than anything in the whole world. And then I thought, why let that upset me, him doing it, when he gets out of there and gets in a car and someone runs a stop sign and kills him? I mean, what? Really? When you're driving a car, you don't have an ambulance right there. You don't have,
Yeah.
I think mentally that's how I got through it. It was
Mhm.
just like, he could get killed leaving this rodeo, so why would I deprive him? And I loved watching him ride, loved it. I mean, he was just something he was so good at. I
Yeah.
mean, so good. I mean, I can't even tell you how good. But I look back now. I had forgotten how good he was. I see these kids now, and then I look back at Ty's older and it was like, oh my gosh, was he ever good?
Yeah.
He
Now
could
you
really
really
ride.
yeah, yeah. Do you remember a time of being in the arena or being at a show and watching him compete that he did get thrown and it was scary? Or have you had those, oh my goodness moments with
Uh,
him?
Not many. Though probably the worst I had is we were at the NFR his first year, and in the saddle bronc riding, and his horse reared over and come out of the gate and knocked him out. And that was the first time my heart went. I mean, I could feel my heart sucking up in my thing.
I bet.
But he was fine.
Yeah.
But I mean, he could have got hurt. But there you go again. You can get
Mhm.
hurt walking across the street. So
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
was very lucky. He never really did get hurt that much compared to for riding three events.
Right, yeah, because his risk ratio was a little bit higher than
Right.
most because he
No,
did more.
exactly.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Paige was telling me that even when he was a kid, that you would really push him though, like to stay on or try again, get back on. That was just kind of your MO was really just helping to keep him motivated.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because he was so good. You'd say, forget that ride. That was yesterday. Let's go to tomorrow. you know, that,
Yeah,
that was
helped him
just
keep a positive attitude.
our out. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Paige, she probably gets kind of tired of her mother in law because little Oakley is such a little cowgirl. And I just want to turn her loose and let her go because she's so good. And Paige is, of course, the mother and a wonderful mother. But she's like, "That's scary." And it's like, Paige, you can't act scared. You act scared, then they get scared. You got to act cool, calm, and collected. Well, that's just really what we always did. But Ty made you because I don't know what it was about him, but you just knew he was going to do good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it just.
I am. I was wondering, I know you're quite the talented seamstress. Did you make some of his rodeo clothes as he was growing up?
I made all of his Western shirts, and You'd never know it by Ty now because he is not flamboyant at all. I mean, it's denim shirts and denim jeans. But when he was little, of course, that was the era that everybody wore turquoise boots. And I was the first one to ever buy him turquoise boots around the rodeos. And a month later, every kid there had on turquoise boots. But I made all of his shirts red, black, fringe. I mean, the wilder the better. And then once he got big to rodeo, he wanted nothing to do with those fancy shirts.
That was probably disappointing to you.
Well, yeah, I guess a little bit, yeah. But I don't know. It was just so him when he got older. Uh, I just watched him evolve into this more. Ty's kind of pretty private, and I'm outgoing and yacky, and he's not. He's very. He's just a good, deep, good person,
Yeah.
and he wouldn't. He'd never brag about himself if you ask him to,
Mm.
and he'd never. It just wasn't like him, and he'd do so much good for people. Like he would leave a rodeo and leave his checks for a kid that got hurt and was in a wheelchair. They'd
Wow.
go to pay him and he'd say, no, just take my money and give it to, he has such a heart.
Hmm.
I don't think a lot of people see that in Ty because he'd never tell you. We didn't
Right.
even know. We didn't even know about him giving. He gave quite a bit of money to this kid, and Cody Lambert's who told us.
Really?
Yeah, Ty never mentioned it.
Mm.
Yeah, so
Well, he got those humble roots from somewhere, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah. He really. All three of my kids. Yeah, they really are. Uh, but we had a lot of fun with. He had a lot of fun with his sisters too, because growing up, his one sister really liked to rope, and they would have contests, and they would have say they had to rope 5 calves that night, each one of them, and whoever roped the most out of 5 calves win, and the other one would have to do whatever they said told him to do. So our daughter Carrie, she beat him the first time, and oh, did she love that? She'd say, "Ty, scratch my back right here," or "Ty, bring me a drink." But they had a lot of fun too, and his sisters are really proud of him. But it was hard on him,
Yeah.
because he got so much attention and so much, And I think it was hard on Ty too,
Mm.
because he loved his sisters and he wanted them too. But it was just always Ty this, Ty that, that's who he was. He was good.
Yeah.
He
Well,
was.
and I think that's the norm in, any family who
It
has a
is.
kid who is a
And that's
star.
what I told the girls,
Yeah.
his sisters. I said, it'd have been the same. We're as proud of you. But, it's just that Ty's in this different, you know.
In the spotlight too. So
And
of
yeah,
course
there
there's
you go.
more.
Right.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure there are two types of dog owners, the ones that let their dogs sleep in the bed with them, and then there are the ones like us that would really rather him not, but every morning when we wake up, Tucker has curled himself up right at our feet, and honestly, he's just too cute to say no to. Thank goodness for the Coat Defense Daily Preventative Powder. This powder is so easy to use. Tucker loves it. It acts as a dry shampoo and it actually repels dirt and eliminates odors. So Tucker stays so much more clean and fresh since we started using it. You can visit coatdefense.com and receive 15% off your purchase with the code MAMA15. Believe me, you will notice a difference and just maybe you'll let your furry friend climb up on the bed every once in a while. What's the age order of everybody? Who's the
The
oldest?
girls are 7 and 8 years older than him.
Oh, so he was also this little baby brother.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. He was
Yeah.
the baby that got all the attention. Like I said,
Mhm.
everybody thought he was and he was. He was one cute little boy. Of course, everybody likes to talk about their kids and how cute they were.
Of
But
course.
he did cute things. He did. Every time we'd go to a rodeo, he was always a bull rider. And we'd be at a big coliseum, and he'd be sitting down in his rodeo, just in the seats at the rodeo. And a bull rider would come out, and he'd get down like he was going to ride, and then he'd pull his hat down, and he'd call for him whenever who was ever in the chute was calling for him. Him acting like he was doing the riding. So we were in Phoenix one year at a big rodeo, and we were sitting there watching the rodeo, and he was just little. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. So he scooched down in his seat and he stood up and he pulled down his hat. And when he did, he had that old black hat so long his head went right through the top of it. So when he pulled it, the, it was just right around here, and part of the hat was up here. But he was cowboy all the way. I'm telling you, he just
Yeah. How young was he when he started competing?
God, 3,
Oh
4.
my goodness.
He won his first buckle when I think he was 5
Oh wow.
in the calf riding, and they gave him his buckle and his check, and he gave him back the check, and he said, "I don't want this. I just want the buckle." I said,
Oh
"Ty, let's learn right now. Yeah, you want the check,
yeah, because one day you're gonna want to buy a mechanical bull and you're
right?
gonna want that money.
Yeah, exactly."
So when you look back at, kind of parenting and having this unusual parenting journey, what are some of the things maybe that you got to do and experience because of the talents that Ty had? I'm assuming you traveled a lot.
Our whole life has just been a storybook, because we weren't wealthy. We didn't have a lot of money. We just, our kids wanted to rodeo, and we did everything we could to make sure they could. I mean, we did without. Not, we didn't do it without anything. But I know a lot of people would say, well, it's because Ty's really rich and his folks can afford. And it's like, oh, if they only knew. We weren't rich. We weren't poor either.
Right, but you were still making sacrifices.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We ate a lot of hamburgers so we could have entry fee monies for the kids,
Wow.
and we cut a lot of corners. And
Mhm.
I'd do it all again in a heartbeat. It was just, uh, I mean, and then Ty is a type of person that just has went overboard on his mom and dad. I mean, he has been so good to us and taken such good care of us. And anything he does, he's always included us.
Mm.
He took us to uh, Hawaii. He took us to Brazil. Uh, he took us everywhere he went. He would just tell them, "Well, I'll go if my mom and dad can go."
Wow.
Yeah. So
That's
they
pretty
would always,
awesome.
yeah. So they would always find a way of going.
Yeah.
So
So when you look back at your parenting journey, what is the secret to that, to your kids, to parenting kids to where they still want to be around you? They wanted you and your husband to go on the trip, and I mean, you obviously have a really meaningful, special relationship with your kids.
yeah, just to put, we just really loved our kids, and they knew it.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it, it's not what you give them, and it's not what you can. I mean, it's just they know. You know, I've never really thought of that question because we've just always had a really good time with our kids, and
Mm,
Butch and I've had a really good marriage, which is really, I think, helps with kids too,
for
because
sure.
we've been married 63 years.
Oh my goodness, congratulations. That's
And
something to celebrate.
yeah, so it was never no, they never had to go through what a lot of kids did was, well, you got to go to mom this weekend, you got to go to dad this weekend. They were with us, and we all loved the same thing. Uh, and Butch and I loved the same thing. It was all about horses and riding, and we broke race horses together.
How did you and your husband meet?
We met in Colorado. I was from Colorado, and I lived in Colorado, and he went to the racetrack because he rode racehorses then. And a friend of ours had fixed me up with him. Well, I could tell you the story, but I was going dating his friend.
Oh,
Yeah, and then we he didn't ask me out one night, and Butch did. He said, "You want to go water skiing with me tomorrow?" And I did it just to be, because I broke up with his friend. Not broke up, but had a fight. I said, "Sure." So sure enough, the next morning he had a boat and his friend and my brother, and we all went water skiing. And I tell everybody we've been water skiing ever since. We just really hit it off and had fun and uh,
Yeah.
wrecked the boat. I mean, wrecked the water ski and broke my nose and turned my legs black and blue the first date.
On the first date, you broke your nose?
Well, I don't know if it wasn't broke, but it was like kind of laying. I pushed it back in, but it was like bleeding a ski come and hit me on the nose,
Oh,
and then
yeah.
the other ski hit me across my legs and
Oh
turned my
my
legs black and blue. And we went dancing that night. So what are you gonna do?
You are tough. Paige said you were a tough lady. You are. You went dancing that night.
Well, it's just a different era, Jennifer. Us kids, we were raised farm kids. We had chores, we had work to do, we had to haul hay, we had to milk cows. I mean, you just learn different than the kids do now. And that don't make it good or bad. I'm not saying that. But we did. We probably are a lot tougher because that's just the way we were raised.
Yeah.
And the kids nowadays get so much done for them
Mhm.
and given to them,
Mhm.
uh, which is my pet peeve. I think they need to get probably less and more disciplined.
And have to work more for what they
And
do
have to
get,
work more
right?
for what, yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
exactly. But like
Yeah.
I said, it's a different era, and all the kids are great, and they're going to make it just fine, and just like
Yeah.
we all did, you
Yeah.
know.
Exactly. Tell me
So
what life's like now on the farm. You guys live not too
we live
far
right,
from
yeah, we
Paige
live on
Farm.
Ty and Page's ranch, and they moved us here when we went to retire. They wanted us here so they could take care of us when we got old. Well, I blinked my eyes and we got old, but it's awesome. We live about probably 6 miles apart as the crow flies on the same ranch, but we both have different entrance. And it's changed. For me, it's been the best thing that ever happened to us because what do you do when you get old and your kids are grown? And I got the most wonderful daughter-in-law in the whole wide world. I mean,
She's
she is
precious.
like she's like living with my own daughter.
Yeah.
I mean, she takes care of us like Ty does, and we have a love for her that just makes it so easy. And then her kids, Case, well, her stepson, but we got him, which she's such a good stepmom.
Mhm.
And we just play with the kids and do, and she lets me tag along and do everything Oakley does and get to watch. And of course, I love it. So it's life is good. I don't know, I'm 80 years old. What do you do? You know,
Do you have your own animals out on the farm?
well, pretty kind of. I've got 4 chickens.
Oh, there you go.
Ryan Page gave me my first chickens, and that's a funny story too because I hated chickens. I was raised on a farm, and we ate so much chicken, and we had to pluck chickens, and then we had to fry chicken, and then we had to eat chicken, and I never ate chickens for 40 years.
Oh, you were over it.
I was yeah, and then finally Ty and Paige got me 2 chickens for Christmas one year, and I fell in love with these chickens. And Ty to this day said, "Mom, I would have bet $1 million you'd have never had a chicken." And then him and Paige built me a chicken house for it.
Oh, so you've got like the coop for
Yeah.
them right
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we've always had 2 dogs, which we've lost in the last year. And we've
Mm.
got 2 donkeys, which I've
Oh,
had since they were little,
uh-huh.
uh, that just stay out on the ranch with kind of protect the cows. And I taught them how to make a pull cart. So this is a funny story, too. When I got this little donkey, Ty said, "Mom, what are you going to do with a donkey?" I said, "Well, I want to make it pull a cart." "Oh, sure," he said. "Let me know when you're ready." So I worked with this little donkey and finally got him hooked up and ready. I knew I could pull a cart. So I said, "Ty, build me a cart, you and your dad." And so they did. And he pulled the cart perfect. So I told Ty, I said, "You want to go with me? And I'll take you across the ranch." So he said, "Sure." So him and I get in my little buggy they built me, and we're going across the ranch. And we come to this little creek, just a little tiny creek, but it was bumpy and rocky. And he got out. He said, "Mom, now wait a minute. Don't cross that until I make sure it's okay." So I'm thinking, he's my kid. And so I sat there until he jumped across and he said, okay, come on. So I done this some old Duncan. He took a step and then he leaped. I mean, he jumped that creek. And when he did, that little seat was just one little seat. It was nothing to hold you in. And when
Yeah.
it did, it just bounced me out, and I sat right in the middle of the creek.
Oh no, so you
And
landed
I
in the creek.
well, I look up and Ty said, "Don't move, don't move, don't move." And I think, "Oh my God, he thinks I'm hurt." The son that he thinks his mama's hurt, and he said, don't move. Let me get the camera."
So he wanted the picture of you in the creek.
Yeah, so he got a picture. So, but
Oh, that's funny.
it's just a great life, Jennifer. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I mean, if I was to die tomorrow, my life has been so fulfilled, so
Yeah.
lucky.
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been,
Now
I,
you get to watch those grandkids do their
oh my
thing and
God, that's the light of our life. And
yeah.
their little Case, Case is a. You'd have to know Case. He's a wonderful little boy, but he plays drums.
Uh-huh.
His mother being Jewel, he got
Yes.
he got all the uh,
Music genes.
yeah. He can sing. He plays the drums. He's very sophisticated, and
Oh wow.
yeah, great, great kid. And then we got Oakley, who is a little Ty Murray, and she's wilder than our chair. And she's like Ty. Honest to God, she can do anything.
Wow.
Anything she's ever going to put her mind to, she's going to be like Ty was. She's very athletic. She's tough. She's funny. Yeah, of course, I'm sure I sound just like a grandmother, but it's all true.
But it's all true. That's right.
It's
Just have
all
to see
true.
it from a grandmother's perspective, which is the
That's
best.
right.
So, well, it's been so nice to spend time with you
You
and
too, Jennifer,
what
and
a
thank
special
you.
journey that you've been on with him.
Yeah.
It's just such an interesting insight to get to talk to the mother of someone that kind of the world admires and knows
Mhm.
and is
Well,
interested in
thank
and follows.
you.
And that's pretty cool.
Always told my husband, I don't know what we did right, but we did something right. But
Yeah.
I mean, you couldn't say, well, I think it was because we did da 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 da. We just loved our kids.